for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. I am your, I won't say humble host, but I am your host and founder and originator of the channel and of the show. I'm going for the May scruffiness. I heard it was no mow May, and I refused to not mow my yard in May. So I decided to give the pollinators something to work with on the face, but I don't think it works that way. So yeah, next time you see me, I'll probably be a little bit more trimmed. But yeah, so before we get too far into what's going on tonight, make sure you guys are heading over to my Subscribe Star, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment podcast on Subscribe Star, and pick one of the levels of support over there. And then while you're at it, check out my merchandise. I've got my coffee. Brand new shiny bag for the shipment. Beanies for those of you that live in a place where it gets cold on occasion. My guest tonight doesn't really understand cold. She doesn't know what cold is. She's from, I want to sing that, what's that? Out in the old West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Katina girl. I don't know how that song goes, but she doesn't know what cold is. She'll make some sort of smart ass comment when she gets on here and tell me I know what cold is, but she doesn't. But then we've got we've got the mugs and the shot glasses and all of that, and I have a lowball glass that I'm drinking some sort of drink out of, but I'm just sticking with coffee tonight because I have not had anything to eat since breakfast this morning, and I came home and I've been in a rush, and I may or may not have avian responsibilities that I have to see to, and they take up more time than I'm used to. But yeah, tonight I'm going to be bringing Heather Baker in. Her son Caleb was part of my alma mater in the Army, the 82nd Airborne Division, and he is no longer with us. The reason that I'm bringing her on, and I know that some of you are used to me having a little bit more lighthearted but in-depth conversations on Monday night. This for Monday Night Musings. This Monday Night Musing is not going to be lighthearted. There will be some jokes. Heather's got a sense of humor. We had her on with Skipper and I last Tuesday on Veteran Nation. And so I know that she has a sense of humor because she was able to sit through an entire episode and even listen to Skipper's really, really, really bad pitches for new TV shows. And she didn't strangle him, which, I have a hard time doing. And I've been doing the show with him for almost 2 years now. So her story is heartbreaking, like any story of a parent who has had a loss, any family member who's had a loss. But beyond heartbreaking, it's infuriating, and it's in keeping with what Skipper and I have been covering with the military deaths that have a lot of question marks surrounding them. You guys remember the old Batman whenever the Riddler would come on and there'd be question marks everywhere? Picture that, but multiply it by about 1,000. And the reason why this is important to this channel is not just because he was a soldier serving in the United States military, but because it's in keeping with the theme that really has been part of my channel from the beginning. Part of the show is government malfeasance. And you guys know I hate the term government. We are the government. We the people, right? We the people are the government. But the it's in keeping with the malfeasance of the state at all of her levels, and with the branches of the state where they in their roots of the state, and the military is part of that, and the Army, for some freaking reason right now, over the last several years, has just become a cesspool of cover-up and um, lack of transparency. And this story will shock you. I don't know how else to describe it. The story will shock you. And as you guys know, I'm my own showrunner, I'm my own producer, my own scheduler. And so there's a lot of information that Heather is going to cover when I bring her in. I will be sharing some images. I'm going to be somewhat selective in what I do share. But one of the things we're going to be sharing is a calendar surrounding Caleb's death. And we're going to touch on this a lot. And there'll be a couple of documents. I'm not going to be able to share everything that she brought up because ultimately you guys need to hear her story from her. But when you hear from her and then look at the calendar and some of these other documents, when you see some of these things, you're going to walk away, maybe not be able to draw a conclusion, but you're going to walk away knowing that not everything that Heather has been told by the military, by the Department of the Army in particular, by the federal state, has been in keeping with truth, with honor and dignity and commitment at all. So yeah, I might be setting you up to have your pumps primed for that, but that's a fact. And so I'm going to bring Heather in now, and we're going to Heather, thank you so much for doing this. I know that was 7 minutes of your life that you're not going to get back, having had to listen to me do my opening.
Oh my
But,
Lord. It was the ultimate challenge.
Yeah. So now live up to it, lady. So
now I'm gonna give you the run for your money.
Oh gosh, no, you're
Here we
not
go.
going to give me a run for the money, but you're gonna capture. And for those of you that are watching tonight, I know in my audience, wherever it's nice, everybody's outside doing yard work, even though they shouldn't be. They should be tuning into this. But for those of you that are watching live, please share this out. Comment if you have questions. Go ahead and ask. And also, if you're watching this on playback, please share it around, because you'll see very quickly that his story is in keeping with the theme of the channel and for why a lot of you watch. So, Heather, I want you to tell us first who you are and about your son, but not his story and your story as they're intertwined around his death at Fort Bragg. But tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and then a little bit about who Caleb was as he grew up, so that people can really hear who he was raised to be and why that was so important to you.
Absolutely. Well, hi everyone. I'm Heather Baker. I'm the mother of PV2 Caleb Smither, and I do say his rank PV2 because I do believe that is an important detail in Caleb's story, and in my story as an Army mom. But I was born and raised here in Lubbock, Texas, and lived here my whole life. Raised my two kids, Caleb Grant. He was born Caleb Grant Jackson, and then he was adopted as Caleb Grant Smither. And then I had my daughter Claire, and they were just both such two wonderful kids to raise. And Caleb was always looking up to the men around him, and my dad, being a veteran himself, Marines and the Air Force. Caleb couldn't make up his mind what he wanted to do. He knew he wanted to serve, and it was real cute. Like his senior year in high school, he's like, or actually not his senior year, it was like he started this like, sophomore, junior year. He's like, hey, I'm going to be going in the military, Mom. And you can't stop me. He's like, hey, can I go in early? And I was like, hey, no. Because I want you just like to enjoy high school and like enjoy like running. He's in track and all that. And but he was just like really defensive about it, because he was just so ready to go. I think he was just ready to fly right out of the roost, as fast as he could, and he did. But he did it with passion and drive and desire to serve his country. And
Was he like that as a kid though? I mean, what was his childhood like? I mean,
oh
you
gosh,
touched on something really important, that he was adopted, which
yeah.
is a huge, that says a
Well,
lot
I was a
about.
single mom raising Caleb by myself for about the first 5 years of his life. And so, he grew up in he grew up in Section 8 housing. I was I was a single mom, trying to go through college, put myself through college. And so we were living, in government housing, food stamps, the whole bit, And Caleb grew up around that sort of life. And then as soon as I graduated college to become a teacher, we moved on out into the first place I could afford, and that was a triumphant day, to be able to do that, to join.
That's an accomplishment, isn't it?
Yeah,
When
it's the
you're
fabric of
fighting on your own like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Caleb was just my little man. He was just such a happy baby. He was such a happy human. Everyone that met him loved him. He put himself into everyone's life like a lightning bolt. He always had a thing for hitting people. He'd say, he'd get in trouble for hitting. I'm like, why are you hitting, Caleb? He's like, he finally, it occurred to him it's because he liked people. He's like, but he just, he loved people so much just when he was a kid, struggling as a little boy trying to say, I like you.
That is totally a guy thing though. Hey, I like you. Let me punch you in the face.
And he's being raised by a single woman, I'm like trying to do the best I can here. But yeah, he looked for every opportunity to be a part of that man's world, And so he's like really athletic and, just like any kind of hard work that he could do around. Like he went and helped build fences one time with my brother-in-law. They had some fires out here in West Texas that, burnt tons and tons of acres, of land, grasslands and such. And so he went out with my brother-in-law. They went out for like a week and rebuilt fences and stuff to help these ranchers. So he's always like human kindness, be both was kind of one of his mottos. Amat Victura Curum, victory loves preparation. It was the only tattoo he ever had. I went with him on his birthday, his 18th birthday, to go get this tattoo right here on his arm, Amat Victura Curum. And I did see him do that. I did see him prepare, and when he began preparing to go to the Army, he went to all the soldier training days and stuff that they would have. His recruiter, Sergeant Pasley was her name, but she's like, she really helped me in a way raise him a little bit, before he went. He needed to have his ear pulled a little bit, and so she would come and she'd bang on the door and get him up and make him go work out with them and stuff. And he got into a little bit of trouble, of course, just trying to make it through high school. He's just a kid, but he was amazing. the epitome of love, honestly. There's so many people. I was just incredibly, in retrospect, just blown away. I mean, like, it's a sea of people that come to these funerals and these memorials. And but what I understand is that it was very genuine. I hugged almost every single person that walked into his memorial before the night before his funeral. About 500 people or so. And these young girls, uh, you know, we're talking um, from all different subcultures of the high school world, everybody said they loved Smitty and they called him Smitty. Because he was
Well, it's
nice.
easier to say than Smither.
Yeah, Smither, right? I know, Smitty. So
See, Smither. See, I even can't even do it. And
he loved, I know. Try being Heather Smither.
holy cow!
try try that one. Hi, my name is Heather Smither. Heather's mother?
No, you touched on his memorial and everybody coming in calling him Smitty, and I don't want to take away from that, but he makes this decision to join the Army, which was, of course, ultimately, just on a comparison, we'd take that over the Air Force and the Marines any day. And we won't even talk about the Navy right now to all my military veteran friends and active duty friends who are going to message me later on for picking on them.
Be careful now.
Oh no, I'm not worried. The only people that could find me would be the former Army individuals, and the rest of them all need maps and somebody to point them in the right direction. But he makes this decision to join. He decides he wants to go airborne, which is a pitch that pretty much every soldier gets as they're going. And all of them, you want me to do what? You want you want me to jump out of a what? No, nope, not doing that. Do you think I am stupid?
Yeah, but he was eager to do stuff like that.
He was eager, and he even talked about going through Ranger indoctrination program, wanted to get his Ranger tab and all of that. But he joins the Army. He gets to basic training. He gets through AIT because he was a tracked vehicle mechanic.
Uh-huh.
So he gets through AIT, which is not a short school. That is not a short school at all. He gets through that. He gets to jump school. And this is in 2020. He decides to do this, in the middle of the COOF pandemic. He decides to do that. Then he, it would have been in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been 2019. And then in late 2019, he gets assigned to Fort Bragg because he's got his airborne status. He's gone to jump school. He's gotten his, they like to, he gets to Fort Bragg. He gets his cherry blast out of the way. Hey, I'm not the one who decides what's to call him, folks. That's just what it is. I'm sure
I was told that it was maroon and not red.
The beret? Oh no, I'm talking about your first jump with division is called your cherry blast.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Well, they're probably not allowed to use that terminology anymore.
He does not get to do that. No.
He never got a jump. He never got a first jump in division.
No. It's horrifying. He was only there for 7 weeks and 4 days.
Well, yep. Yeah. So let's not. I was not aware that he didn't even get his first jump in division.
Really sad.
That's terrible. That's like the first thing they do. They assign you to your unit and they get you out on a jump. But there again, it's 2019.
There's
going into 2020. But so he gets there. Would have been ultimately end of October of 2019.
November. It was
beginning of November. Then
it was actually. Well, I would remember because it was Thanksgiving Day of 2019 that I drove him to the Dallas-Fort Worth to hitch a plane. They wouldn't let him fly out of Lubbock for some odd reason. It had to be out of Dallas-Fort Worth. So I drive him 6 hours away to Dallas, even though we have a perfectly good airport here. Listen to me gripe. But
You
I mean,
got 6 extra hours with him, Mom.
I know it's true. It was a wonderful trip, and that's that I really do need to look at it that way, because it really was a wonderful. It allowed us to spend just a little time with him. We you know prepared to sleep over and got a hotel room and that sort of thing, the night before, and so it was wonderful. And those memories, those last memories of him getting on that airplane, and the airlines has a great way
Because
of.
this was right after jump school.
This is right after jump school. He came home for hometown recruiting, was
Yep.
home, and got to
And
meet basically my entire school.
yeah, we joked a little bit about that. They like to take them right out of basic AIT and jump school while they're still
hot, fresh.
all hot and fresh and still in
Jive.
love. Like they have no idea what the actual military is like yet. But boy, damn it, we're gonna get you to recruit the hell out of some people.
I'm telling you. And I mean, I fell for it too. Here I am trying to build the team, but see, that's how excited we all were. We were just so jived about him being able to live his dream.
Right. I want to touch on something else too, because you pointed out to me in our subsequent conversation Heather and I probably sound like we've known each other for a while now. We've just met last Tuesday.
We just like to conversate.
It was like what? It was like a what?
I said we just like to conversate.
Yes, we have talked an awful lot about all of this. So
it's hard to shut both of us up. We're like,
so you were a little bit of a hippie. You were not the kind of feisty probably before, but you weren't the big gung ho join the military.
I mean, I supported
and on and on and on. You were a little bit more on the side of peace, love, and understanding, and daisies and rifle barrels. And
but this experience has definitely grounded me and brought out this different part of me that I didn't know existed.
Right, so there was kind of a dichotomy though for you, because you're like literally an actual artist. You're not just a like everybody's an artist now.
Absolutely.
But you're an actual artist. You paint, and
I'm an artist and I'm a musician.
Artist and a musician. So you have a little bit more of that wild side, free spirited mentality.
I'm telling you,
you did. So then Caleb goes, "I'm joining the Army, Mom," and you're like, "Oh," which explains to people why he'd say, "And there's nothing you can do to stop me," because he knew.
Well, he thought that I wasn't going to support him, but I always knew that that's what he wanted to do. So I already supported him, and
but in the back of Caleb's mind, he's like, "Mom's a bit of a hippie. I don't know if she's going to go."
Well, he was just worried. He was just worried because there were other parts of our family at the time that didn't. And I do look back on this conversation.
We did not plan this, folks. I did not know she was going to have her flag on her shoulder like she does there. By the way.
Oh my gosh! Well, I'll tell you about this shirt in a minute. Yeah. Caleb's stepbrother, he and Caleb were having this conversation one day, and he was like, "You're going to get killed in the military. You need to," he was like mad at Caleb for wanting to go in, and I was like, because we were having this big family discussion about it, and anyway, that conversation has stuck with me, because how passionate his brother was about telling him, hey, he had this like sense that something was going to happen. And Caleb, he would say,
he just wasn't picturing it the way we're going to get to. He was picturing it more like a combat situation.
I would say that this situation there's a silent war happening on our own territory, friends.
I 100% agree. But
I did not know that this was occurring. I had no idea. So whenever I got the knock on my door,
you're getting ahead. You're getting ahead.
Sorry, I'll let you.
No, you're getting ahead. So Caleb's home. He talks to all of your students. I think you said that you filtered like some 5,485 people through your classroom in one day. It was an outrageous. It was an outrageous number.
500 peeps. 500 kids.
500 kids through your classroom.
Or something more than that, actually.
In one day, He talks to all of them, tells them all about, make sure you learn how to take direction and, follow
Yeah.
the rules and all of that. And then Thanksgiving Day of 2019, you put him on a plane after a 6-hour drive saying, "Hey, we'll talk soon." He takes off to go to Fort Bragg, which is now if anybody who's ever been airborne knows, that's a dream assignment. That's like, it's rough. It's rough road. Fort Bragg, the 82nd Airborne is not, you don't play around. That's
Prestigious, supposedly. Sorry,
no,
I
no. The division it's just how they're handling crap, and we're gonna get there.
It's a prestigious division.
Even if you
You're
don't
right.
go to combat, there aren't a lot of people that can say I served with the 82nd Airborne.
Yeah.
And that's why obviously I took interest in this story. But he gets there, and he gets attached to he gets assigned to which unit?
It was a 37th Engineer Battalion, 2nd Brigade Combat Team. And I'm not sure I think they called themselves what do they call themselves?
That's don't rack your don't.
So
it's okay. Don't worry. Don't. But he was attached or assigned to the 82nd Airborne. He was attached to an engineer battalion. And for those of you who don't understand the structure of the 82nd Airborne, 82nd Airborne is a division that's made up of 3 full-time regiments. Each one of those regiments rotates through several stati. There's Ready Division. I'm using terminology from when I was in there. I'm sure they've got different, more high-speed, high-tech terminology now. But there's Ready Division, there's Training Division, and there's Resting Division, or brigades. And each one of those, so like Ready Brigade, they spend all of their time on ready status, prepared to go to war. That's all they're doing. They're not training. They're not going to the field. They're not out on leave. They are literally sitting there basically on alert, waiting to deploy. So keep in mind, like right now, the 82nd Airborne is on at least one of their regiment or brigades or regiment, one of their regiments, along with several platoons or companies or battalions of other support staff or support assignments, are sitting waiting to go to Ukraine. That sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not. We have special operations teams on the ground in the Ukraine right now. The entire job of the 82nd Airborne is to exist for rapid insertion, 18 hours anywhere in the world. That's it. From notification to deployment, 18 hours anywhere in the world. So if we've got these special operations, special forces, Green Beret, you folks, that are over in Ukraine right now, and they're getting their asses handed to them, they pick up SATCOM, and they call, and they say, we need support, and we need it now. They will have that support from the 82nd Airborne in the drop of a hat. 18 hours sounds like a long time to you guys. It is not a long time to get an entire regiment on the ground ready to fight. That's like that.
On the ground.
That's boots on the ground, 18 hours. Now, he gets assigned to an engineer battalion, and people are like, holy cow, what the hell are they doing with an engineer battalion? Well, that battalion's broke down into companies, and each one of those companies is assigned to a different regiment.
He was E Company.
His company at any time is going to be assigned to a regiment, and they are going to be on a rotation with that regiment where they're doing maintenance or getting ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
At some point, they're going through that. Now, Caleb got there basically Thanksgiving Day of 2019. More than likely, he got assigned to a unit that was not on readiness.
Yeah, it was Rear D.
Yeah, so there he goes. They were,
and I think that was his fatal. That was like fatal for him. He was ready to go. This is a kid that's 12 points. Look, He was 12 points away from a perfect PT score. I have that right here.
And if Juan, my great friend and the producer and owner of the Right America Media is watching, Juan, 12 points out of a high, the top score in a physical fitness test in the Army is a lot different than the Air Force, Juan. I just
Well, I don't know. I think for me, I don't know a whole lot about all that. But I think 12 points is
12 points is that's
pretty
I mean,
good.
I did pretty damn good. I don't think I ever got within 12 points of a perfect score.
Well,
But so he wants to do this. This is what he wants to do. And he gets there. Now, I assume you talked to him pretty soon after he got to Bragg.
oh, absolutely. I was, with
probably
Snapchat.
messaging each other.
Yeah, well, with Snapchat, I could see his little body like going across the United States, and I was like,
Mom's like, I know where you are.
Where's he doing? Where is he? I was like scrolling in, trying to figure
Right.
out where he's at. Yeah, I mean,
So he gets to Bragg, he gets to his unit, he gets assigned to the barracks, which of course he's a single soldier. He's not going to be out living off in Fayetteville or Hope Mills or anything like that. Or
have a car,
right.
So
yeah, so he's assigned to the barracks. He gets a barracks mate right away. Now he never gets his first. He doesn't get his cherry blast with division in, and that's just
it makes me so.
He
sad.
He should have been on a plane within the first week that he was at Bragg. That just pisses this old paratrooper off.
No,
but
it breaks my heart for him. That's one of the things that breaks my heart. One of the things.
But you did get to see him jump because you got to go down to Georgia to Benning. Are they still jumping at Fryer Army Airfield?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to know what they did to me on my first jump?
Oh my God, what?
At jump school? Well, not just to me, to everybody that was going through the school at that time. Okay, they had Humvees on the drop zone with all the black hats. Those are the instructors for jump school. They had all the black hats down there with their black hats on. They were playing from the back of the Humvee, these massive speakers. They were playing Knocking on Heaven's Door for us as we were jumping out for the first time.
Badass.
That's not badass. That's terrifying.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, that was.
Hey, I've had to.
And Learning to Fly by Pink Floyd for Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Yeah, well, that was the song that might have been a better one.
But yeah, they were playing Knocking on Heaven's Door for us as we're coming down. I'm like, that's unsettling. But so you got to see his last jump at Fryer Army Airfield, and were you there? Were you able to take part in pinning his wings?
Yes, I did. Yeah. That was just absolutely beautiful, magical moment. I see it, feel it, can experience it in my head again. It's amazing. What an amazing opportunity that was. It was worth every mile of exhaustion driving through the night just to get there. I mean, we were driving on fumes just trying to get there, me and my mama.
So now he's at Bragg, doesn't get his cherry blast in.
Yeah.
And now let's fast forward. I'm assuming he's adjusting pretty well. Hey, Mom, I'm getting along. I'm meeting girls.
He never said anything about meeting girls, but he did talk about loving what he was doing.
Oh, no, that's right. He had a girl back home still.
Yes.
Oh, so then, no, I didn't mean to impugn his character. So
No, he did love the girls, and I will tell you that all of them have red hair.
So
talk about learn. Each girl that came up to me after his funeral or at his funeral during that time,
every one of them had red hair, didn't they?
Well, of course. Hello, nice to meet you, and you.
Oh, and you're a ginger.
Yeah, I love your hair. It's just beautiful.
Lots of gingers in the Army. by
He
the way.
was
Lots
like,
of ginger girls in the Army. I don't know, something about the attitude. I don't know what it is. But I can remember the ginger that I was in AIT with. So I remember her name. I won't say it. So, but so he's adapting well. You're not getting any feedback from him that he's running into any problems. Nothing about being overly hazed or anything like that. And
no.
let's just deal with it, folks. I don't care how touchy feely you think you are. The Army and the Air Force, the Navy and the Marines, you still get hazing. It might be different than when you were in. If I hear one more person go, back when I was in the Army in 1776, I'm like, okay, shut up, dude. They used to hit us with rocks and feed us dead cats. No, it's not, yeah, things have changed, but there's still hazing going on.
Well,
But he's getting along. He's enjoying it. He's doing what he wanted to do. He's got plans. Then January rolls around and it's middle of January and you get a phone call. Tell us about that.
well, I get a actually I
Well,
get,
tell me about the day he called you.
well,
And
the day he texted me. He
te-
texted me and he said that we had planned on talking that day. And I believe it was the 14th of January, and he said he didn't feel good, that his head hurt, that he had a concussion. And I asked him what happened. He said that he hit his head on a vehicle. And at the time, the 1st Brigade was employing back into America, and the 2nd Brigade was about to head out. And so there was a lot of shift happening, right? Like you mentioned, there's a lot going on and it's happening fast and furious. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm assuming as a mom, understand that I am
it's controlled chaos. I just want everybody, it is controlled
here's
chaos.
me on the other end trying to get information from a 19-year-old. Can you tell me this, that? I'm trying to get do you have a PO box yet, Caleb? Do you have a PO box? Because I wanted to send him his Christmas gifts. He never got a PO box because he didn't even have a car. He was at the mercy of everybody else, whatever. Anyway, sorry.
No. So you get a text from him. What day did that text come in? I know you remember.
I believe it was the 14th
The
of January, and
You get a text from him saying, "Hey, Mom."
that he didn't feel like talking. Yeah, I didn't know all the things that he had tried to do. He wasn't forthcoming with the information with me. And I tried to call him.
How out of character was that for him to send
that,
you a text and say, I don't really feel like talking tonight"?
yeah, that was weird. But I just in my mind said he's been really busy. He's trying to fit in over there. I didn't want to be the helicopter mom, like banging his roof in, annoying. So I was just trying to let him breathe and do his job, like he's experiencing all of how to do everything for the very first time over there in a real, his real first, um, for
First duty assignment.
his first and final duty assignment. And so he's just what I heard from everyone that I spoke to over there when I did go over there to his memorial was that he was amazing. They all had these wonderful things to say about Caleb that they had only known for 7 weeks and 4 days. Well,
he made it. He made a positive impact on people, and that says a lot about him as a in his character. And
they said he was always working hard and he was always trying to, whatever he was. He kept his nose to the grind. He focused.
So
he was funny. He was humorous and he was funny and he had a good sense of humor.
So the 14th, the 14th, was that mid-afternoon or evening? Do you remember roughly when that text came?
I think it was the evening. It was in the evening.
Okay, so you guys had planned on talking that night. in that evening. So for him, it would have been evening. You would have been early afternoon.
Mhm.
You get this text saying, "Hey, I don't feel like talking." That's all you get. Then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're getting a phone call from him that is also even more out of character.
No, I didn't. I have not. I never did get a phone call from him.
Or no, or was it a voicemail?
Okay. Okay. It's there's a young lady, PV2 redaction. I met her when I went over there. I can say with confidence that her name is PV2 Martinez. She is the one that received the phone call from him, and he was crying.
Okay.
He was moaning and crying, and he was saying that it hurts, and he might even ask for help. It was hard for me to listen to for the very first time. I did
So
acquire
so
that.
he left it as a voicemail for her.
Yes. Well, he was a desperate. You could tell he was desperate. He
Right.
was a lot. Caleb was not one of those people that whined about pain.
So for him to make a phone call to anybody, let
Yes.
alone somebody he basically just met,
He's looking for the closest, nearest warm body that he could even know.
that he thought he could trust. Yep.
Yes. I
So
mean,
he leaves this
well, he has a
voicemail.
roommate right there, right?
Right.
I mean,
Let's not even bring him up yet. So, you told me I'm going to have to wrangle you in, so I'm wrangling you in.
that's good.
I'm corralling you, lady.
Yes.
I'm going to use language.
Okay.
I'm herding you like a steer. There we go.
Okay.
Well,
I am a Taurus, so that does make sense.
I felt like it'd be better to say I'm herding you like a steer than say I'm herding you like a cow, because that would just backfire on me.
I always say that I'm a calm, quiet, cow or bull in the middle of a field, but if you just keep pestering me,
Okay,
you'll get
Algernon.
horns.
So you don't know anything about this yet. You get a text from him on the 14th that says, "Don't feel like talking."
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Then this young lady, this young private,
Yeah.
she gets a voicemail. You don't know anything about this until well after. So right now, you don't know anything.
Over a year after, yeah.
Right. So you don't know anything at all.
Mhm.
And then you get a phone call on the what was it, the 16th?
Oh, no, I didn't get a phone call. No. I didn't get
No,
any phone calls.
no, somebody shows up at your door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that happened on the 21st of January.
And I know it sounds like we're jumping ahead, but this is really important to the story for people to understand, because this 14th, Mom, I don't feel like talking. I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
14th, Mom, I don't feel like talking. 21st, there's a knock on your door.
Yeah, at about 6:00 in the morning. The loudest, most like you think somebody's trying to break in your house. It was pounding on my door at 6:00 in the morning. I was headed to work, and my husband, he, I mean, God, man, it was
It's
crazy. He walked
Heather,
around the corner,
you do this the way you need to do this. If you get
and
emotional, you get emotional.
thank you. He gasped. I didn't see who was around the corner because the banging was so loud that I was worried that who is trying to break into our home like this. And he gasps, and then these people, I just hear this sound of somebody walking in, and you just go, what is going on? Like all the air comes out of your body as you turn the corner and you see two beautifully decorated soldiers standing in front of you, and you know exactly what it means, but you cannot.
You've seen it in movies.
You've seen it in movies, and you cannot make it make sense. And it takes all the air out of your body, and all at once you feel this atomic bomb go off in the middle of your whole life. and it feels like shrapnel and electric energy that goes through your entire body and it stays with you, and it's still with me. And
You don't even you see them,
you
you
can't
register who they are,
slow
but
motion.
internally you're saying, I don't want to, I can't, if I don't answer the door, if I don't open the door, then they can't tell me what they're here to tell me.
They were already there. They were already in my house. And
So your husband had let them in
I
already
let
at
them
this
in,
point.
yeah, and we were just staring at them, and I said, "What is going on?" And then they said the words that you always hear. "I'm sorry, Miss Baker, we are here to inform you." And then you're asking how, and nobody can tell you how. And you can't make it make sense. Like, he just called me or texted me on the 14th and said that this whole time, between the 14th and the 7th, I'm sorry, the 14th and the 21st, like, I'm calling him, right? And he's not picking up. But I'm thinking
He's
he's
young, he's away from home.
he's 19.
He sent you, I don't feel like talking.
I'm not
You're
gonna
like, he's got a life of his own. You're
Yeah. I was trying not to be the helicopter mom. My word of wisdom to all families and all Army or military families, moms out there is please be a helicopter mom. Okay. You kind of have to, because it's not safe where our service members are serving right now on their own territory. So anyway, yeah, it just felt like an atomic bomb went off. And I mean, I started gathering things around me that were his. I would walk around and I would see something that belonged to him, and I would bring it into the living room. I made this like huge like altar full of all the objects that were his. Like, I just started. You cannot know what it does to you. It just. I mean, I had kids because he had just graduated high school. So all these kids, as soon as everybody finds out that Smitty died, my house is full of people all the time. Kids coming over, crying, kneeling down in front of all these pictures and Smitty's name tag from work, from Sonic, from McDonald's. He worked at McDonald's, like all this stuff, and everybody's like bringing stuff and laying it down in the same spot. I mean, it's just, and everybody's asking what happened, and I don't know. And meanwhile, okay, so here they drop down ground zero here in my home, and then, I mean, I call family and that sort of thing. I call Caleb's, his girlfriend, her family. They come over and we're listening to these gentlemen talk to us about what happened to Caleb, and that there is no knowledge of it, of what happened. And his girlfriend's dad, Wade Wilkes. He's also.
Does his girlfriend know at this time? Was she there at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
And so Wade Wilkes, he's also a veteran. And so he was like, just listening in, helping me, just listen in to know what's up.
It's registering with him that something's not. Yeah.
Because so we waited. So these guys, the initial, notification came in, and then the next notification came in, or the next layer of that, which was my casualty assistance officer. He got there about 10 o'clock at night. And so
you've gone the whole day now.
I've gone the whole day waiting.
And he shows up at 10 o'clock at night.
From Fort Hood. So we live in Texas. And so they always send or supposedly always send, I don't know. They sent the closest base to us was Fort Hood, which is in Killeen, and it's about 5.5 hours away from Lubbock. So my casualty assistance officer got there, and I mean, talk about a dream come true. This guy, he's the real deal. And there's a lot I won't say or share, but I will say that he is totally, completely legit. And I'm so grateful for him and his service to Caleb and honoring my family and helping me walk through a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. And the first thing that I had to do was pick what coffin I wanted. I had to sign documents and pick the coffin immediately. But I also found out that Caleb's body wasn't going to be home for 3 weeks. And Mr. Wilkes said, that's crazy. He's like, that doesn't make sense. 3 weeks. So here's Mr. Wilkes. I'm sorry. He's, like I said, a veteran, and he's like, this is a big red flag. So
he wasn't overseas. He wasn't deployed to Afghanistan. He wasn't deployed to Iraq. He wasn't deployed to any of the other numerous stupid places we're putting our troops in the world for conflicts just to fund a military industrial complex. Folks, there's my pitch for peace, by the way. Hashtag Veterans for Peace.
Yes.
He's CONUS, folks. It's referred to CONUS, Continental United States.
Yeah.
He's in a different country. I will say that.
Yes.
Fort Bragg, Fayetteville is a completely different country than the rest of the United States. But he's CONUS. He's here in the continental United States. There's literally no reason why a soldier who dies on post should be delayed getting home to his family by 3 weeks, unless there's some reason to delay it investigation wise. But we don't have there's no answers at this point.
Right.
And folks, I know I haven't brought the calendar up yet, but if I bring the calendar up, it's going to ruin the timeline. So, which, Heather, just so you know, this is why I didn't, jump too much on bringing things up, because this
strategic.
It's strategic. So your casualty assistance officer is doing a great job. He's helping you get through, what do you, here's the arrangements. What coffin do you want? Where do you want him delivered? Where do you want his?
Yeah, he's delivering all the difficult news. Like, I had to wait. I waited an entire week, and then they told me, my casualty assistance officer notified me that Caleb's body, after I had already, so the very, very next day after I find out Caleb dies, I'm like, I have to be a big girl now. Okay. I have to call and, find out where I'm going to bury my child. So I'm planning on having an open casket, right, everybody? Okay.
It's my 19-year-old son. I want to see him again.
Exactly. And he, I remember that he wanted to have, he'd been talking me up about the pink and greens, guys. If you don't know what the pink and greens are, that they're Army's new, old, iconic green, slightly pink uniform. I love them. And Caleb loved it too. And he was like wanting to save up for that. So what do you think Mama's going to ask for? Heck yeah, I'm asking for those pink and greens. I asked everybody I knew to ask. Anyway, I find out a week later that he is too decomposed to be viewable at his funeral.
So what people need to now understand is this is a big red flag, folks. This is a massive red flag. That not only did Heather find out that her 19-year-old son is dead, There's no explanations. She gets notified on the 22nd. Now it's the 29th, and I'm going to get ready to bring the calendar up. It's now the 29th, and the way it reads on the calendar is family was notified that Caleb was too decomposed to be viewable at a funeral. Now, no matter which way you slice it, folks, this is a massive problem. This is massive. It at the best, there's negligence. The next step up from that in severity is depraved indifference. And the next step up from that is malfeasance and foul play. There's no other way around this. Okay? And if your mind, and I'm going to go someplace with this real quick, if your mind is in that place right now because of all of the things that are happening in the world, yes, it's January of 2020. Don't let that 2020 fool you. The big thing that was going to happen to us in 2020 hadn't happened yet.
That's right.
There was no sticky stabby for it yet. So if your mind's going there, don't think that, because that hasn't happened yet.
Nope, not yet.
So no matter which way you want to slice, I don't care if you're a sensationalist who wants to make it about that. If I find out that you make it about that, I will personally come find you. Okay?
It ain't about that, folks.
It ain't about that. There's something else going. Yes, there's malfeasance of some sort, but it ain't about that. So don't go there, because I know that's where everybody wants to go right now.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
About it.
But mom and family aren't getting any answers, and then they're told, we're sorry, but his body's in such a state that he can't have an open casket.
Yeah,
Mom
there's
has
no
not
way.
seen him since Thanksgiving Day of 2019. It is now January of 2020, and mom cannot say goodbye.
Try to break that to my 13-year-old daughter at the time. She said, "You mean I'm never going to see my brother again? Never?" And my daughter, I will tell you, she went through a lot of emotional trauma and cutting and things like that. She did she self-harmed. She was really struggling, and she's older now, and she's so much better and more balanced about everything. She's healed. Her heart's healed in a lot of ways, probably more than mine. She's done a lot of work. But it affected all of us in very different ways. And it was really traumatizing for my daughter, Claire.
So as you guys can see the calendar, what does start to come out is that, and I'm gonna use terminology that some of you are going to be incredibly uncomfortable with, but it's the only terminology that we can use. Allegedly, on the 9th of January, allegedly, Caleb hits his head getting out of a tracked vehicle that he was working on.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly goes to the ER and is turned away on the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
On the 9th. Now, I'm not saying allegedly like Caleb lied about this or anything.
Right.
I'm not saying for a fact that anybody lied. This is the story. This is the detail of events that has been given to Heather and her family.
These are the facts that we can look up in the investigation.
These are alleged facts.
Right.
So I want people to understand that this is the building of a narrative about how Caleb died.
And here's
But-
one of the biggest
Go ahead.
contradictions. It's one of the first contradictions.
Because it's the 9th. You're initially told the 9th is when he hit his head. But we go the 10th, 11th, and 12th. So you go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. After he allegedly hit his head, allegedly gets turned away from the ER. But then on the 13th, you're also told that he hit his head.
His first sergeant and company commander, they're the ones that testified in the CID investigation that it was the 13th that Caleb hit his head on the trackline vehicle. Yet for some reason, there's a discrepancy about the 9th. Why would Caleb, and I look back at the evidence that I have as far as text messages and how he communicated with his friends, and we don't have this proof because Snapchat, instantly deletes like their, snaps or whatever. But he had.
Well, let's just Snapchat could, but they haven't because there hasn't been enough of an investigation to.
Exactly. Well, there was a picture everybody remembers of Caleb snapping this picture of him in night vision goggles saying that he had hit his head and he had a concussion. And that snap, of course, apparently went, it goes away or whatever.
But everybody remembers
Everybody remembers it then.
They all remember it.
Okay. So I'm piecing it together.
So that's either the 9th or now we get a testimony in an investigation. Not a testimony. We get an answer in questioning under investigation that he didn't know it was the 13th. So now we're hearing the official narrative from the first sergeant and the company commanders. No, it was the 13th. Yet again, turned away from the ER, and that's the day he leaves the voicemail with this other private
crying. He's crying.
That mom still doesn't know anything about.
Right.
Now, on the 14th, he sends a text to mom in the evening saying, I don't feel like talking.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime during that day, prior to the text message, it's reported and he's logged as having gone to Womack Army Hospital at Fort Bragg.
On the 14th.
On the 14th.
Yeah. He's logged on the 14th and the 15th of having gone to the ER. Yeah. It's very concerning that they would turn an injured soldier away after hitting his head and complaining of.
Do we have the record showing that he was at the hospital on either the 9th or the 13th and was actually turned away?
No.
We're just told he was turned away.
Right. But
and we were just told that he hit his head.
Right.
Now I want people to think about this too. Caleb, and I asked these questions in Heather's appearance on Veteran Nation last week. Caleb did not have a history of concussions. Caleb did not have a history of massive head injuries in sports or anything else. He had never had any concerns with any of that. He didn't have any TBIs, any of that. None of that. None of those things are pre-existing conditions for him. So for Caleb to have hit his head getting out of a tracked vehicle can happen. I hit my head just today when I got home taking care of some chores that I had. When you hit your head, it doesn't feel good. I mean, duh. Unless you're weird. But Caleb allegedly hits his head hard enough to get a concussion and need to go to the ER. And the ER allegedly, no documentation, allegedly turns him away. Now, command staff, company first sergeant, and the company commander are informed enough to know that he hit his head and know that he was turned away. But they don't bother to tell anybody about this until they're questioned about it. Then on the 14th, he does go to the ER. And Heather, tell us what happens at the ER when he does go that day. Because for one, all you military people, especially Army, you're not going to be surprised, but you're going to be pissed off.
Well, Right.
He goes on the 14th and he complains about the pain, and they do what?
And he's given, oh yeah, you guys are gonna love it. You already know the answer. It's 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. You know, and
Which is different. It used to be Tylenol, folks. So
okay, well, they gave him, I believe, 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. I was gonna go back and look at the actual.
they literally gave him a horse pill of ibuprofen, 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. That's enough to have choked an elephant.
And they gave him stuff for a migraine. They gave him medication for a migraine instead of, and here's the deal is like, when you give somebody medication for a migraine, it's supposed to kind of relax you and cause you to rest or whatever. When you have somebody that has a concussion, is that the best way to treat a concussion? Because what I'm reading in the investigation is after so-and-so has driven him to the ER and now is taking him back to his barrack room, he's falling asleep in the seat. Right? He's,
there again, we know this because this was
really hard. He's complaining.
This was questioning that revealed this. Questioning by Criminal Investigation Division of the Fort Bragg MPs.
That's right.
Reveals that this person drives him to the ER. They treat it like he's got a migraine. They give him 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, treat it as a migraine. And this person now is driving Caleb back on the 14th to the barracks and says he's falling asleep in the car on the way back.
So did I tell you how okay, so on there's so much to add on these. On the 14th, he misses formation. And so
morning formation for PT.
Right.
Yep.
And so they go get him. And the only way he can make it out of his bedroom is wearing night vision goggles. He's wearing night vision goggles out to morning PT, and they're like, "What the hell, man? What's wrong with you?" So that's finally sent him the first or the second time.
Which people need to understand. He puts on night vision goggles to go out to PT in the morning. Now, that even in North Carolina, a PT formation in the morning is going to probably be between 5:30 and 6:30, somewhere in there. It's still not that dark, but what was going on that he could not function without these NVGs?
He was having massive headaches.
He was having these headaches. And that's where his mind went. He puts this on. They're like, "Soldier," and I can almost imagine how it sounded. What in the blue blazes are you doing out here for PT formation with night vision goggles on? Get your ass back into your barracks. Get back out here in the right uniform. And he's got an ass chewing coming.
Well, what they said was, I thought
under normal circumstances.
Right. So this is when they say, "I thought you went to the ER." And he said, "I did, but I got turned away." So that's where that little conversation
Which is what's been reported to you. This is all alleged.
All of it is alleged. These are not.
We don't know any of this because this is all folks, I'm telling you, do not think, "Oh, well, you're impugning the character of the people who are reporting this." You're goddamn right.
Look, this is the investigation.
And you're going to understand why.
Investigation. Look at all the redactions. Hold on. Look at all the redactions. Look at my notes. Okay. I know this investigation inside and out. So
then he gets sent to the ER. They give him painkillers, and just over the counter stuff, basically, to send him back to his barracks. He's falling asleep in the car on the way back. He texts mom later in the evening, same day, "I don't feel like talking." No other explanation. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you right now, what I have known from Heather and what she has said about Caleb, and the fact that he had placed a phone call that we didn't find out about until a year later, that he placed a phone call and left a voicemail with another soldier. Now on the morning of the 14th, he's in so much pain he has to put NVGs on. Text mom, says, I don't feel like talking. That's completely out of character for him. Completely out of character. As an individual who's suspicious of every damn thing in the world, I don't know that Caleb would have sent mom a text message like that. That sounds to me like somebody sending a text message thinking.
It's highly possible.
Not that you need anything else to think about, Heather. My apologies, but I'm thinking like someone who's looking at this as an outsider going, this stinks to high heaven.
I've heard this from many people have had the same thought.
But then we get to the next day. Yeah, there we go. We get to the next day, the 15th, and he makes a phone call at on the 15th, he makes a phone call at 5:42 a.m. He goes.
His last text message.
Last text and phone calls at 5:42 a.m. Then he goes out. I would imagine he somehow manages to drag his butt to PT because he already got chewed out for misinformation once before. He shows up, and then he goes on another ER visit at 6:56 in the morning, which is when they registered him there, which means he basically ended up going to sick call is what he did. He said, I can't do this today. I need to go to sick call. He goes to the ER.
Yeah.
And what happens at the ER this time, Heather?
Okay. Well, this time
without giving us the details of what one person diagnosed him with. Just tell us what
so they do a CT scan. They say that there's nothing in the CT scan no signs that would show a traumatic, brain injury or anything like that.
So CT scan, folks.
Yet there is swelling in the sinuses. So keep that in mind.
Right. So there's swelling in the sinuses, but nothing that shows.
There's a soldier that can't keep water or food down. The nurse or whoever is helping him, whoever that was, because this is a testimony from the soldier that drove him to the ER, right? He's telling the story that Caleb couldn't keep water down. He couldn't keep food down, that the nurse even told Caleb not to drink water, and he did anyway and ended up throwing it up. So what would you think would be like the most obvious thing to do in the situation like this? He's already been back. He's throwing up, can't keep water even down. And the nurse is telling him not to drink water. Though, like I would think that you'd be like, honey, you look like you need to drink a little water. Here, can I get you some water? Let's start there. Can I get you some water? No, she tells him, don't drink water. And anyway, he, of course, regrets it and throws it up. But to me, that's a sign. I'm not a nurse and I'm not a doctor, but
there's something more going on.
There's something more going on there. I mean, I'm a mom, for crying out loud. If that happened, I would definitely be watching my son a lot more closely that evening. You know what I mean?
So then he goes back to his room. Now, for those of you old people who were in the military at one time, or, have a house, we used to use keys on barracks rooms, just like you have a key for your house to get into your room. And back then, so Caleb's room is not your normal everyday barracks room. Barracks have changed a lot over the last couple of decades. This is a suite style room. There's a main room, and then there's rooms off of the main room. And the main room has kind of a living room / kitchenette type environment.
A little common area.
It's a college party room is really what it boils down to. I would have been like, hey.
It's a spot. Yeah, right.
This is a place where we party when we're not working. That's what it is. And you just got to keep it clean. That comes
That's
up too. Now, to get into that room, unlike days gone by, there is a key fob that tracks when people go in and out. Am I correct?
Mhm.
Yes. There's a key fob.
Yeah.
So at 10:58 that morning, Caleb goes back into his room, into the barracks. That's the last time that he is seen. Think about this, folks. That's the last time that he is seen, and it's the last time that his key fob is used to get Caleb into the room, into his bedroom. That's it. Now, I'm not pushing you along, Heather. I just want people to understand. Military, they already sent him in for sick call. There's probably somewhere in there he came back with paperwork. He had to present it to whoever was a charge of quarters that day. Probably stopped in the first sergeant's office, had to give it to him at some point. That's just the way soldiers are conditioned. But that's the last time he comes in or out of that room that anybody knows of. 16th, nobody sees him. They don't see him for PT in the morning. They don't see him for duty assignment that day. That's Thursday. Friday, doesn't show up for PT, doesn't show up for duty assignment. Allegedly, as you guys can see on the calendar, allegedly somebody checks on him, but now we know that this is a false report of a check. Who allegedly, and just a real quick answer, Heather, who allegedly checked on him that day?
The corporal redaction.
Corporal redacted. We can't know his name because, gosh darn it.
The interview, he was extremely defensive when being asked questions about Caleb.
So
And
now
he said he called Caleb on the 17th, and they could not. When he was asked to show evidence of that, he didn't have it in his phone, and they said, "Well, where is it?" And he said, "Well, I probably used somebody else's phone."
Right.
Okay.
Probably. I probably used somebody else's phone. This is a corporal. This is an NCO. It's a low-level NCO.
And they all do group chats now that we're in this, technology age. They're doing group text chats, right? So that's how we're all communicating, right?
Right.
So no, he did not use somebody else's phone. And I will tell you myself, when I analyzed Caleb's phone records, because I had to order them from AT&T, but when I analyzed his phone records, guess who the only person that called Caleb on the 17th was?
Who would that be, Heather?
Me. It was me.
So we know for a fact that no one called him. Now we're going to go to the 18th, folks. You need to pay close attention. It's Saturday. There's no formation on Saturday. There's no PT on Saturday. There's no duty assignments on Saturday.
Martin Luther King holiday. 4-day.
So it's a 4-day at this point, because now we're going to be off on the 17th. We're going to be off on the 18th. We're going to be off on the 19th. But for some strange reason, now there's a report that somebody checked on him on a Sunday on a 4-day weekend. Who supposedly checked on him on Sunday, Heather?
It was a specialist that was
redacted.
Redaction. I actually know his name, but we'll just keep it to myself for now. There was he actually was the only person at the end of this whole thing that was, he lost a rank.
So this specialist allegedly checks on Caleb.
The only reason,
but now we find out that he didn't.
Right.
On a Sunday. Why would he be ordered to check on Caleb on a Sunday of all things?
Well, he was ordered to check on Caleb throughout the weekend. They were all, it wasn't just him that was ordered to check.
Well, no, but let's just, because Caleb hadn't shown up on the 16th, hadn't shown up on the 17th,
Mhm.
So now we're going to be keeping an eye on him. So somebody checks on him on the 19th, but then we find out later
Yeah,
on that
supposedly, allegedly, right?
Corporal Redacted, who we do know the name of, but we're not going to put it out there yet in this episode. We might in the future.
Yeah.
This specialist who's been redacted doesn't actually do it. Now we come on to the Monday holiday. No PT formation, no duty assignment on this 4-day. Nobody's checking on him. Then all of a sudden, the 21st rolls around, ladies and gentlemen, friends and hate watchers. Caleb's body is found. Now, what you guys need to be aware of is this means that on the 21st, Caleb doesn't show up for PT at all. He hasn't shown up for PT. He didn't show up for his duty assignment. And they don't find his body until 2:30 p.m., ladies and gentlemen.
He also missed a doctor's appointment.
So he had a follow-up from his CT scan that took place on the 15th.
Right.
So he missed that. Nobody bothered to go to his room until 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, January 21st of 2020. Now, Heather, something stands out in this barracks suite about this entire situation, and there's a note on the door and there's an aroma in the air. Tell us a little bit about that before we get to the note about a time stamp for Facebook.
Okay, so his roommate
Redacted.
His roommate redaction has been talking to his friends, the corporal and other folks in some common area somewhere, and mentioning the fact that he had left a note on Caleb's door saying, "Hey, we have room inspection soon. You need to clean up your, shit, basically, dude. Come on, help out in the common area," right? And he starts stacking stuff up by Caleb's door, leaving notes. And then he says to this corporal, he says, well, and his room, it stinks really bad. It's smelling really bad. So he starts spraying Febreze, cover up the smell that's coming from Caleb's room. And so the corporal says to him, he says, maybe you should go check on him. And my point to everybody is, well, maybe you should all go check on him. It's everybody pointing fingers at everybody else and nobody taking accountability. Everyone's shirking responsibility. Nobody wants to go check on Smitty. All they want to do is drink, party. The corporal can't even remember what friends he was hanging out with. He can't remember what phone he used to contact Caleb on the 17th. And now his roommate sprang
He probably used somebody else's, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure of it, right?
Probably.
But there's no evidence of it at all. And so here's his roommate redaction is spraying Febreze to cover up this horrific smell. Now, let me just mention something here.
If I can interject real quick, Heather, if I can. Don't let the 21st be the day that in your mind, do not allow the 21st to be the day that the Febreze is sprayed. Because if you're going to try and do that math, you're going to be like, oh gosh, he could have died on the 16th. He could have died on the 17th. So in your mind, you're trying to figure out, I guarantee you, because this is how we work, because our minds want to always go to, well, this could be legitimate. Your minds are trying to figure out which day he started spraying, and you see the 21st as the day that Caleb's body is found deceased in his room.
Mhm.
You're thinking, oh, he probably sprayed it on the night of the 20th.
There's nobody says what day.
Nobody says which day the spraying of the Febreze takes place. The roommate can't give any idea when the last time he actually saw. He allegedly cannot give any idea of when the last time he actually saw Caleb was. We just know that he hasn't seen him and that it stinks in there and that he's spraying Febreze to cover up that smell. And it's bad enough that he has said something to the same corporal who probably used somebody else's phone. Probably. Yes, I'm doing that on
He's a little
purpose.
defensive about everything. What, Caleb Smither? Can't talk about him.
Probably used somebody else's phone to check on him, which then we find out never happened. And then another person probably checked on him and never happened. So this roommate, this barracks buddy, is spraying Febreze because there's a smell of decomposition happening. But he hasn't bothered to really do anything about it. And he gets told, well, maybe you should check on him by a senior NCO, not a senior NCO, a low-end NCO. And now you said coincidentally there was something else that took place that day.
Yeah, coincidentally, when we actually noticed that his Facebook, there was a login that happened on the 21st at 8:48 p.m. on January 21st, the same day that he's discovered. There's a login. Now, if you look at that login, and this login happens from an undisclosed, what does it say? Let me look at that actually. And I do believe I sent that to you.
Go ahead.
The one on the 21st, it says unknown location. The Facebook login on the 14th.
And that's to Caleb's Facebook.
Yeah. Like somebody opened his Facebook, logged in.
So people know when I sound like I'm being conspiratorial or conspiracy minded or suspicious or doubting of the formal narrative, his body is found at 2:30 p.m. On the 21st. There's a unknown location login to Caleb's Facebook account on the same day that his body is found at 8:48 p.m.
Yeah. And so they've explained it away as like this satellite, blah, blah, blah. They use the satellites. But I'm like, here's the deal is that
I just hate it when satellites randomly log me into my Facebook account from halfway around the world. I hate that crap.
Deal, on the 14th, apparently the satellite logs him in at Newborn, North Carolina. That's 3 hours away. And then I
hate it. I hate it when satellites do that crap.
The same thing happens, and I'm just like, it's this. I don't know what to do with this, but it's evidence. It's there. But yeah, on the 21st at 8:48, and so it makes me wonder, like, who was on his phone at 8:48? Well, here's what I was told was that they couldn't get into Caleb's phone. And it even says in the investigation that they didn't need to triangulate his phone, which meaning they didn't need to somehow find it electronically, I guess, because when they walked in the room, it was vibrating, meaning people are trying to call him, right? Yet when I get his phone, it's on airplane mode, which would mean that you don't feel it buzz, nothing's happening. So it's on airplane.
Somebody was able to get into that phone and change it.
Somebody was able to get into that phone. Okay.
After they've said they can't get into it.
After they couldn't get into the phone. You would not believe the conversations I've had with the CID about Caleb's phone. And I was trying to come up with 6-digit passwords, numbers. They were like, do you know his password? Do you know it? Do you know it? And I mean, I was asking everybody. We were trying to like voodoo doll, figure it out. Like, like like have dreams. Did you have a dream about the 6-digit number? Anybody? We were trying to figure out, I was constantly communicating with these people, like, here's what we have. Try these numbers. What do you think that does to me as a mom? Do you see what they're trying to do? And how dare they do that to me? That is abusive. God.
So the next day, you guys get the notification that he died, and we've already covered that, and so I don't want to rehash it. But you guys get that, and then we go another full week of you being in mourning, making arrangements to bring Caleb home where he belongs at this point. And then on the 29th, you get a phone call telling you, we're sorry to inform you, but Caleb's body was in too much of a state of decomposition to be viewable at the funeral.
Yes. Yeah, that was
a
bomb drop, and that was everything stopped that day.
I will say something here, and people, you're not going to want to hear this, but if that's true, if everything is, if all of this is true, if every cotton picking thing that has been said by these people who are in charge, we don't know when Caleb died. They can't give us a date. They could try, but they can't give a date. But he was in that room long enough, not only for rigor mortis to set in, but for decomposition to reach such a level that there was an odor, and
he was past rigor mortis. He was in
right. He was past. He was deceased long enough that rigor mortis set in and was gone. That an odor, which can happen with any death, depending on what's in the system, what's passed from the system at death, when the muscles let go, all of that. But he was deceased long enough for rigor mortis to be passed and for his body to be so decomposed that he could not have an open casket for his funeral. Folks, I am not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I want you to think about this. And I know it hurts Heather's heart. I understand this. But someone is not telling the freaking truth. There's no way that in the winter,
71 degrees in the room,
in a room that's maintained at 71 freaking degrees, that Caleb's body decomposed that goddamn much that they couldn't do anything at all with an open casket. Period.
Yeah, his skin was they call it skin slippage. There's no, when they put the makeup on the, there's nothing to hold the makeup on. There's no way. And he was so I know it's horrific, but I have seen Caleb's autopsy photos, and I've seen the photos of him post-mortem in the room, laying on the floor. And so
that's another thing too. People have to understand what we're going to do, because I'm not sharing all this stuff because YouTube is weird as hell.
Right.
Let's just leave it at that. YouTube is weird as hell. I'm going to be working with Heather. We're going to have another video that's going to be out on Rumble. We're going to be doing an exclusive. It's not going to be up tonight. My plan was to try and do it tonight. So my apologies, Heather, for springing this on you right now. But we're going to do a Rumble that's going to have a song that was written for Caleb. We're going to have that. But I'm going to also try and do a video for Rumble as a Rumble exclusive, or maybe an exclusive on Subscribestar, where I can protect it a little bit more. So if you're interested in seeing this, we might have to go the route of, pick up the $3 level of Subscribestar to come in and see this, where we may put more documentation via video and photographs on one of those platforms for people to see this. But Caleb was found in his room, not in bed, not in bed. He
Mhm.
was on the floor in a very unnatural state.
Mhm.
Can you,
Yeah, he
as
was
much
like,
as you can emotionally handle it, can you describe how he was found laying in his room?
it's really sad. I mean, his room was a complete disaster with food, molding food in places. Like it was just crazy. Like to think that, nobody is coming in and checking. Because if somebody saw his room in that disarray, it would be like, what is wrong with you? Get your shit together. Get all this shit out of here. But that was what it was amazing. Like his room was so full of trash. And to me, what it showed me was how in pain he was. Because you don't care. When you're in pain, you don't care. You're just going to throw the bottle over there, He felt terrible. He was laying on the floor. He was discovered laying on the floor. And the strangest thing is that he had this blanket like halfway up his torso. It looked very positioned perfectly, to be quite honest, because he's laying on his back. And they're in the best investigation. It does say that it looked like his body had been moved. And of course, they go on and say that that they were able to explain it away somehow. It has to do with the way the blood coagulates, underneath the body, and it looked like his body had been moved. There's also, of course, here's that word again, allegedly, right?
All of this is alleged.
Allegedly, somebody heard something, some scuffling or moving around in his room the night before, right? But they
on the 21st he's found. On the 20th, there's somebody reports having heard some sort of
noise
coming from his room. So,
well, it wasn't Caleb.
But couldn't have been Caleb, because now we know his body was too much of a state of decomposition. So who in the blue blazes, who in the actual French toast was
right.
in his room for somebody to report that they heard a noise coming from his room? So unless you want to jump to some sort of really weird conclusion that Caleb was a zombie,
yeah.
who was in his room besides somebody who had access to that room?
Yeah. And who would that be?
And who would that have been, ladies and gentlemen?
I don't know.
The only person I know that would have had unfettered access to that room besides Caleb would have been his barracks mate.
Well,
I'm not saying, but these are questions that need to be asked. And have they been asked? Because the way this has been treated was, natural causes.
Right. They stopped all investigations after the natural causes.
Because the autopsy said natural causes. Now, Heather, what was the natural cause that was listed by the coroner who did the autopsy? And who was in the room during the autopsy procedure?
It's listed as acute bacterial meningitis. They say that he died of natural causes. I still want to make sure that I find exactly where this is, but I believe that I have read in Caleb's autopsy that his command was there, also present. But I will find that exactly and make sure that I have that as evidence. But yeah, I mean, why would his command be there? And the other thing is and that thought leads to an evidence that I read in the CID investigation that says the toxicologist that did Caleb's autopsy said that it would raise red flags at the command because no prophylactic was needed for anybody else. And so what that means is that when you have acute bacterial meningitis, it's highly contagious. Anyone that would have been around him would have been susceptible to it. And yet nobody needed any medication. Nobody else got acute bacterial meningitis, even though they were around Caleb. Does that make sense? So no
Yeah.
prophylactic was needed. No preventative medication was needed to combat this evil acute bacterial meningitis. It's highly contagious. That he also had a vaccine for meningitis in basic training, but it wasn't for this particular kind, I guess. So, yeah.
So his cause of death is considered natural. It's acute bacterial meningitis. We've been told that he hit his head one of 2 days.
Mhm.
He had a CT scan that did not show anything that would give lie to the truthfulness of a head injury that would cause any of this. But the CT scan did show swelling in the sinuses, which could be meningitis.
Mhm.
But he dies of meningitis, and nobody gets any kind of prophylactic precautionary treatments. No other treatments or anything else is ever prescribed for anyone. And the investigation now stops. But you learned that there were some people in the autopsy room.
Mhm.
Who were those people?
Well, I believe that his command. It said that his command was there. So let me look and make sure. Let me look at that document. See if I can find it. I may have to find that exact document for you later. But yeah, I mean, I just think that's interesting that his command was there, and I don't understand why. It doesn't make any sense why they would be there.
And just so people are aware, I have a thunderstorm moving in. So if all of a sudden this stream disappears, you'll know why. And Epstein didn't kill himself.
I'm looking for it, but it might take me a little bit. There's a lot of documents.
You know what? It's not. That I'm not saying it's not important, but it's reported that there's people in his command that are in the autopsy room, obviously as the autopsy is taking place. Now, if any of you are at all familiar with autopsies and things like this, there's no reasonable explanation for why non-medical personnel and non-criminal investigators would ever be allowed into the autopsy room for an autopsy on a soldier who everybody believes at this point, prior to the conclusion finding that it was a bacterial meningitis infection, there's absolutely no reason for anybody to be in there supervising this when they don't have the expertise, one, to be part of that, or the medical training to be part of that. And this is an engineer battalion, folks. It's not like his command staff were all like side hustle medical experts like Dr. Bowden, who just happened to also be like in command of an engineer battalion. There's no reason at all for the command staff to be involved in the autopsy under these circumstances. Really under any circumstances, but damn sure not under this circumstance. When I tell you that this stinks, that it reeks of cover-up and malfeasance, I think you'll understand why. So at this point, Heather, you're now fully engaged in the conversation, and you're working with one of the CID investigators, and you're telling me that this investigator is asking all the right questions. He's actually incredibly helpful to you and to
Mhm.
your family.
Yeah.
And
Adam,
then all of
yeah, he was great.
and so much like your family counselor individual from, I can't remember what his title was.
My casualty assistance officer.
Casualty assistance officer from. I'm old. My brain doesn't always work. Most of the time, my brain doesn't work. So this casualty assistance officer from Fort Hood is great. The CID investigator that you're initially working with is great. But then all of a sudden, because he's great, I'm alleging this.
Who knows?
He disappears.
Yeah.
He's gone. He's pulled from the case, and a new one's put on, and he becomes a complete stonewall. No help, no information, butkus.
Yeah.
Butkus.
He was hard to deal with. He was defensive and not forthcoming. He would say things like, if I'd say, well, when I spoke to Mr. Armstrong about this issue or whatever, he said this about it. He said, well, I wasn't privy to that conversation. You can almost see a smirk across his mouth.
He's treating you at this point.
I'm like,
he's treating you at this point like if you guys notice, I'm checking the weather to see why I'm getting an unexpected show of thunder and lightning.
Like stupid. And my casualty assistance officer, every single time he would tell them, Miss Baker is not stupid. Because it's like he would even say, that Miss Baker, they think you're stupid. And I said,
and this is coming from somebody at Fort Hood, and Fort Hood's had its own problems, ladies and gentlemen, by the way.
I'm not stupid.
Yeah. So you're now Stonewall. Like, all of a sudden, you're getting nowhere. You can't get his belongings. They're not giving you any of his uniforms.
I still don't even know how he died.
Right, at this point, you don't know.
CID investigation. I have no investigations. I have nothing. I didn't have his belongings.
You didn't have anything. You have to go and start making a scene at Fort Hood to get anything from Fort Bragg, to get any of the stuff that can be seen in the background behind you, to get any of this stuff at all.
Yeah,
you get any of this stuff at all. You get to the point where you even start writing letters. You're contacting congressmen. You even hired an attorney to help you. And just so you folks know, Heather's attorney will be on with Skipper and I on Veteran Nation tomorrow night. And I think what I want to do, because I don't want to try and rush any of this, what I'd like to do, Heather, is...
Yes.
What was that?
I said yes.
Oh, yes. You're like, okay. What I would like to do, Heather, is I want to go on for a few more minutes, but what I'd like to do is I'd like for you to reach out to your attorney and find out if he'd be willing to make an appearance with you again next Monday.
Sure. I'm sure he would absolutely be interested in that.
Where we can go into even more detail than now, because I kind of want people's minds to sit on this, and I want people's minds to steep in this like you would something with a fine wine in something that you're marinating. I want people to marinate on this. Like, you have a grieving family who's been notified that their 19-year-old son, brother, cousin, a girl who's the love of her life, his girlfriend is now in the same position, wondering what happened to my boyfriend.
Mm-hmm. It was really sad.
All of these people wanting answers, and we're not getting any answers, folks. We're not getting even bits or pieces or scraps of answers. But none of this makes a goddamn bit of sense. None of it. I'm not saying that I can tell you for a fact that Caleb didn't die of natural causes. He maybe did.
He maybe did.
But if he did,
Other evidence.
if he did, why the hell is anybody covering this up? A soldier dies under any other circumstances. Overseas, they go overseas. They come home to a hero's welcome.
And this is a sweep this under the rug as fast as we can.
Which is exactly,
slap a gold star on that mom real quick, and then let's
make her feel special.
Make her feel special, but then
shut her down.
Shut it down.
And this is not uncommon over the last several years. We've seen this at Fort Hood, and I'm working with Heather to get in touch with Private Halliday's mother. Is it Patricia?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to talk to Patricia, because Patricia had a situation in 2020 that went almost exactly the same way, and her son just disappears. But she didn't find out until just a few months ago that her son was dead. And the military's known since October or August of 2020 that he was dead. And they knew where he was found and the condition he was found in. There is something going on with the military in the United States. Not just the Army. It's happening in the Air Force. It's happening in the Navy. It's happening in the Marine Corps. There is so much malfeasance, and they are struggling to cover up stuff that's happening CONUS. They're struggling to cover this up. They want you to look at these poor service members who are being sent off overseas to go and fight the wars and battles for the military-industrial complex. They're wanting you to go and look at all of these people who are fighting in places. We're sending troops to Sudan again. We've got troops in Syria still. We're sending them all over to fight and die in wars that we shouldn't be involved in. And when they come home dead or severely injured, we should treat them with honor, and we should treat them with respect. Yes. But the people who are dying here in the United States, some of them flat out murdered, and others under questionable circumstances, and we can't get a goddamn answer from anybody. Why? What in the hell is happening to the families of these service members? And what is happening to these service members, and why is the military working so damn hard to cover it up? Why will they not tell the story?
They don't want to blemish on their image. The DoD doesn't want to blemish on its image. Let's just say, in the case of Caleb, because I don't believe this happened, but let's just say he killed himself. Let's just say that's what they've decided. Why would you hide that? Right.
Huh?
If I'm surprised they didn't.
Right. I should put myself back on screen. I forgot that I was talking. I was the voiceless body, or the bodiless voice.
No, I mean, I'm surprised. There's so many scenarios. I'm surprised that didn't happen. But
that's the thing, is why would they do what? Like, just say it then. If he killed himself, say it. At least we can go, okay, what was going on in his head? But so much of this doesn't add up to that, but it also doesn't add up to the fact that this kid was in so much pain he couldn't get out of bed and go to PT, but he could die on the floor, and people heard noises in his room the night before he was found, but his body was too damn decomposed for him to have a freaking funeral with an open casket. I've seen people get killed in war zones that have been able to have open caskets.
Yeah. A lot of the decomposition is on one side of his body, and it's just, I mean, he's purple and black. I mean, he's just purple and black, and it's so, there's so much decomposition on one side. There's just no way.
I can tell you right now, Heather, the same thing that I told Patricia on when we talked about Private Halliday's situation on Veteran Nation. I know for a fact that there are people paying attention who would love to investigate this.
I'm
That
more
that are willing to write articles, that are willing to make videos, that are willing to expose the malfeasance. They're watching this.
that's what we need. We
Will
family.
you talk to them?
These are high profile cases that nobody's talking about. Like these are cases that like everybody should know about, Yet we only know about Vanessa Guillen. Did you know that when they were looking for Vanessa's body, they found Gregory Morales's body? Have you heard about Gregory? He was partially buried. And his family, the army would not even pay for the funeral. They said that he was, AWOL.
AWOL.
And but yet he was partially buried, right, in a field. Okay, I don't think that he buried himself, guys. Okay, when after Caleb died, that's when we found about Gregory, and then Vanessa's thing came out. I was just horrified that this family was getting treated this way. Horrified. These are non-combat deaths, guys. Yeah, they admonish you, they praise you if you've been overseas, if you've served in a war, but this is a silent war that nobody knows about. And we need people to be, we need help exposing it. And there's so many families. I can get you in touch with a lot of people that have been touched this way, and there's a lot of families that won't speak out. They're afraid to speak out. It's a hard road to read investigations, to see photos, to have to, the things that I've had to experience. It's a hard thing to do, and not many families have the heart to do it and to push. And it's zombie land, honestly.
Somebody asked,
It's like free climbing up a cliff.
Somebody asked that, the question is still here, is there any way to get another autopsy? And that's, Heather and I have discussed this in depth every day since last Tuesday. Because I know Heather said, I wish I would have done my own autopsy. That's not, it would be possible to do a postmortem at this point autopsy. To do that, to order an exhumation and all of that is a massive hill to climb. It's a financial undertaking and a court battle that maybe something could be done in that regard in the future. But we'd like to get answers from the military is what we'd like to do. We would like to get answers from the military because, boy, howdy, like I said, they'll tell you so many things about so many situations to get you on their side and to hail heroes. And there again, I'm not saying that to take away from those that willingly put their lives on the line, whether we agree with the situations they're fighting for or not. It's not their fault. But when it comes to these situations, all of a sudden she gave several names. I mentioned Private Halliday. These situations keep coming up over and over and over and over again, and they'll hide and obfuscate and deflect and gaslight and everything. And that's what we want to work on. So Heather, I definitely want to bring you back on. I'd like to bring you back on next Monday night if we can work that out, to have your attorney who's there again with us tomorrow night on Veterination. But Veterination's a limited amount of time. We don't get to have a free flowing conversation for an hour plus. And I'm not knocking Veterination. I love doing the show, but it's just a different environment. Mm-hmm. I'd love to have you and your attorney, if we can work that out, back on Monday night. Absolutely. And go into more detail on this.
Yep.
And Teddy Bear asks, were his barrack mates interviewed independently? There was one barrack mate, and he was interviewed. His name was redacted, and we don't know how to. Well, I think we can find him. That's not the point. But yes, there was an interview, but we don't know
Yeah,
whether or not there's some questions about the interview.
I'm more than willing. I'm more than willing to share all of these documents. I just need a place that I can share them. I have calebsmither.com. I'm working on a way to share more documents that way. It's a little funny the way the documents, these investigations upload. I was trying to get them to upload to Google Drive, but they don't translate very well. So I'm trying to figure that out to where I can share. But
the link to calebsmither.com is in the description of this video. Once again, I will be working to find a way to get these documents out and up.
Yeah.
But also with those that are watching that are of an investigative mindset, I know that they would like to see these documents and that they would be willing to have communication with Heather. And look, Heather wants an answer.
Yeah.
And we're not going to say that she doesn't care what the answer is. She cares. But first and foremost, and I'm speaking very boldly for Heather here, and I'm not going to apologize. Heather wants an answer.
Yeah.
She just wants the truth, no matter what it is. No matter what it is.
Caleb
wants the truth.
The answer. He's the one that lost his life. He's the one that every time I walk up the hill to go see him, to say hi to my son who's buried in the ground now, I always start off by saying, I'm sorry, Caleb. I'm sorry. Because it's his golden life that he didn't get to live, you know? And he gave so much and got zero back. Not to mention all the creeds that you sign up to follow. You know, thinking of the NCO creed right now. How, you know, serving your soldiers is the most important thing that you do. Yeah, I'm sorry, Caleb. I'm sorry for your loss, son. Yeah, I mean, I have right here is his counseling form initial counseling form that he, in his own handwriting too, when he went over to Fort Bragg.
Put that back up.
It's his initial counseling form. So do you see where it says, can you read that, TC?
Well, the handwriting is typical Army NCO handwriting, so no.
Okay. Well, let me just say what it says. It says that his goals are Hotel 8, and he wants to learn to be, or he says Air Assault, Ranger School, Sapper School. He wants to learn to be a better mechanic and learn and continue to become a better soldier. Those were his goals, guys. Anybody that says, oh, Caleb took his own life, no, right there is his goals. You know what I mean? That they couldn't make that narrative come true for them because he was too good. So what did happen to Smitty?
That's right.
Yeah. He died behind enemy lines on a base that he swore to defend. And unfortunately, and if you don't mind, I'll share this congressional research, the statistics that say that 75% of our service members die non-combat deaths. And of that 75%, 93% die on U.S. soil, on their own territory, on their own base that they swear to defend. And then we'll get into the medical, the GAO has some research that says 1 out of 6 of our medical doctors, nurses have
Yeah.
accreditation, that they are even accredited, 1 out of 6.
And there's some questions about the doctors that were involved in his hospital visits too, and we'll cover all of that the next time.
Yep.
So, folks, I'm not gonna. I normally do, a solo exit. I'm not gonna do that this time because Heather's coming back, and we're gonna bring more information. And I I really feel like we could be talking about this for another 3-4 hours, and I don't know that it's gonna. I don't know that the weather is gonna cooperate with me on that one because it is now actually really raining. I can hear it through the cans, folks. So, Teddy Bear says he was a good-looking young man. My son is about the same age. My heart breaks for you. And Tony says it's not your fault. He'd be proud you're fighting for him, folks. That's what we're doing. We're fighting for the Calebs and
That's right.
the Private Holidays and all of the others that have lost their lives, CONUS, and that nobody's giving us answers for. And this is not for Heather. This is not just about Caleb.
We fight for each other. We fight. We
There's
families fight for each other.
dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of families out there that are all running into the same freaking thing. Stonewall after stonewall after stonewall after stonewall after stonewall.
And if you know a family that needs help, needs their first step, please. There's so many people that I can put.
They can reach out to me, and I will. The MBRR podcast at yahoo.com. If there's somebody that has questions about what happened to their loved one and they need people to talk to, I will put them in touch with Heather.
Or if they have something happening right now, if their needs are not being met now, if there is a service member, if you're a mom, dad, if you have someone in the military that's not being treated properly and you don't know what to do, whether it's toxic abusive leadership or it's medically or in any way at all, please let me know, because I can put you in touch with some people that can.
And for the love of God, if you are a young woman in the military right now and you are being sexually harassed,
yes,
find a civilian resource. Do not, in the name of all that's holy, report to your command staff, because they will get rid of you or they will find a way to make you go away.
Yeah,
we are finding this out over and over again. Do not, if you are being sexually harassed or you have been sexually assaulted by someone in your unit or in an adjacent unit, find a civilian resource to go to. And if you can't find someone you trust there, you reach out to me and I will find a way to make sure that you're safe. I know a lot of freaking people.
Yeah. We do have to be the unbroken chain, the unbroken chain that was broken for Caleb. And that's what this is about, is to rebuild and not be that unbroken chain. We need to be strong for each other. So it is. We for me, it was boots on the ground, day one. I'm hitting the ground hard. I'm finding the answers. I'm asking questions. These are questions I don't want to have to ask. They're hard. They're difficult. But anyway.
So
God bless America. You do
friends,
what you have to.
Fans, hangers on who pop in and out once in a while, people who are only here because they hate me, and that does happen from time to time. So to the hate watchers,
Hi.
To the FBI agent that's assigned to watch my content.
Hi.
Hello.
Now you know about Caleb Smither.
Do something good with your time.
Yeah.
Share this,
please,
on every single social media platform. I don't care which one it is. Share it on Mastodon. Like for all the lefties out there who say they care about people. Share this everywhere that you can.
On Caleb's
Take
website is all of my social media platforms.
find Heather's social media and tune in next Monday. We will be doing this again with more detail and hopefully with her attorney sitting by her side. Now you guys know why this is in keeping with the theme of my channel. We fight for the people who cannot fight for themselves.
Yes.
And I want to remind all of you as we go,
Love that.
fight for your freedom. It is yours. Fight for your liberty because it belongs to you. And fight like hell for those who cannot fight for themselves anymore. Sic semper tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.